Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Interesting People to Meet for Black History Month. I am so excited to introduce Cleve Mesidor. She is someone who I have known her for a few years, but the minute I read her story in an article, I was like, I need to interview this lady because you have done so much, Cleve, and I think people need to understand that, I want to hear about your journey from, growing up in Haiti and then going all the way to the White House and then onwards. I really want to hear about that. So please introduce yourself and tell everybody about the wonderful work that you've done.
Yes, well, thank you. I'm Cleve Mesidor. I lead the National Policy Network of Women of Color. And I remember when we first met a few years ago, it was at the United Nations. You organized an event for UN impacted blockchain. Blockchain impacted the UN. It was incredible. There we were in this big room, and when you came in, everybody was just like, "Oh my God!" So I was like, "Oh, and the event was so flawless. So I'm glad we were able to keep in touch because those events are very difficult to maneuver, especially messaging, but especially an agency. So
I've got some great pictures of you, by the way. I found some of you, and you look so happy, and you're like, "Oh!" I'll share it with everybody. It's really great.
Awesome. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. And being in the blockchain space, one of the great things has been meeting other women who are doing such incredible things. I tell people all the time that women of color are the fastest growing demographic in the crypto ecosystem. When you look at the micro enterprises, entrepreneurs, and startups that are building products and services on the blockchain, it's incredible. So that's why, in my organization, I focus on women of color and the work that we're doing. I obviously, the work that I do falls back on public policy, which is my background. I was a presidential appointee for President Obama. I worked on Capitol Hill for 2 members of Congress. And I also, worked on several national campaigns. And so, I first learned about blockchain and cryptocurrency in 2013. A friend had a Bitcoin project, but I wasn't but I wasn't that excited about it, but it was good to learn about it. I didn't really get interested and go down the rabbit hole, as they say, until about 2015, 2016, when the conversation about intellectual property protections opened up, identity management, privacy rights. That actually excited me. So I wanted to learn more about the applications of this technology, beyond just facilitating the exchange of value, which is cryptocurrency. So very quickly, the price of Bitcoin went to 20,000. Congress said, okay, we have to regulate them. So I had to lean back on my public policy background. I was living between DC and New York at the time, and I started working on public policy, but I uniquely focused on the Black caucus, the Hispanic caucus, the Asian Pacific American caucus, which is referred to as the Tri-Caucus on Capitol Hill, because those members, they represent the constituencies that actually need this access to this empowering technology. But oftentimes they're dealing with such pressing issues that they don't have time to actually go down that rabbit hole. But also what they hear about often is illicit use of crypto, and not necessarily, about the potential and the transformative, value of blockchain technology. So that's how I got here. And, so I've been able to marry my public policy background with blockchain and cryptocurrency and, be part of this emerging market that's it's in its infancy, and the possibilities are limitless. So I'm excited to see where we go.
Okay, so real talk here, Cleve. Do you find that you have a harder time getting people to listen to you simply because you're talking about blockchain, or because you're a Black woman, or just because people are just like, what is this? It's tech. I don't understand. I'm not tech focused. Or are they getting it?
It's interesting because your question is unique. So when I'm outside of the crypto community, right, people are like, what are you talking about? I have to convince people. Because there's a lot of resistance, some trust issues. But in the crypto ecosystem, I do get again, unfortunately, just like, traditional tech, there's a lack of diversity in blockchain and cryptocurrency. And therefore, for women, for innovators of color who are talented and who have been in this space since its inception in 2008, we are still challenged, and we still have to prove that we know what we're doing. And even when we show that we have the knowledge base and the acumen, we're not getting the funding, or we're not getting, but I try not to focus on that, because I've learned you can't convince people to, recognize your power, your potential, and who you are. You just have to do. And that's why, a lot of times within the crypto community, there are people who just want to continue the traditional path, right? A lot of folks want to focus on, store value, create financial instruments for investors, right? For wealthy investors. And to me, that's just competing with Wall Street. And why compete with Wall Street, right? The store of value was intended to empower the grassroots, right? The white paper talked about an electronic, cashless payment system. And even though we've evolved, at the heart of this, though, for those people who want to focus on creating financial instruments for investors, I wish them luck. Good luck competing with JP Morgan, Fidelity, or even the Visas of the world. Like, they have the consumer base. I'm going to focus on, the consumer base that I represent, and specifically, Black, Latinx communities, women of color. We have the buying power. We're underestimated, and we're actually looking to control the marketplace instead of being consumers as we've been in the past.
Yes. I have the same thing that that you've experienced. When I first started, I always tell the story that I went to this meetup and I was the only Black person, not just Black woman, the only Black person in a room of 500 people. And then I was one of 5 women. And so people were like, who's this person? Where'd she come from, right? And so I had to constantly prove myself. But then at the time, the community was smaller, so I got to be known. I stood out. And now when I go places, people are initially like, who are you? And then somebody will come out and go, oh, Emma, yada, yada, she's done all these great things. And people are like, oh, okay. But, it's like constantly proving yourself. And, sometimes I just smile and just, move on. And other times I think, no, this is a battle I'm going to fight today. Let me tell you who I am and what I've done, But, it's just, it is that constant, it is that constant, having to prove yourself and what you've done and what you've accomplished, which I find so interesting. And it's just like you have so many incredible accomplishments. Like, my question to you is, how do you keep going? Like, you are always going. Like, I don't think you sleep.
Oh my God. Well, lately I haven't been sleeping. I think everybody with COVID, we all got insomnia, right? But
yeah, that's true. I do it too.
But I will say, I am a workaholic. I was like this when I worked in politics. So I can't, I have to own it. And I'm also very driven. And, my goal, just as it was in politics, now in the crypto space, is to have a social impact, right? It's to actually, and I published a book last year, and the book is called The Clevolution: My Quest for Justice in Politics and Crypto. So I'm one of those people who, when I see injustice, when I see something wrong, or when I've actually wronged somebody, or I've fallen short, I struggle with it and I want to actually make it better. So unfortunately, I'm a perfectionist and also, a workaholic. But when I worked in politics, I got disillusioned after a while because, in politics, you're often advancing the agenda of people you may not actually believe in. Right? And even sometimes people who are in your party who really don't have the best interest of your people at heart just because they have a D next to their name. So one of the reasons I wanted to leave politics was because I wanted to use my skills and my, abilities to do it my way. So the great thing about blockchain, being an entrepreneur in this space, is it does allow you to do it your way. But as you said, it's in its infancy, so it's a small community. So we have a lot more latitude than we would if the space was already grown and and develop. So, at this point we get to be the architect of it. And so for me, I want to make sure that if I'm in this space, if we're in this space, we're lifting each other up, we're creating opportunities for each other, we're being a network, and we're also creating access points for other people of color.
Okay, that is so true. And everybody, last year, Cleve had this amazing event called Juneteenth on Juneteenth. And I took away so many things. I kept thinking about that for weeks after. Just some of those nuggets that people said, things that really kind of hit you, about what it's like, growing up, being Black and all these different things. And then, also getting into crypto and things like that. And it was just so mind blowing. And I can't thank you enough for getting that amazing group of people together. And now I follow them and I celebrate their successes with them, and just really, and everyone's going in such different directions. It's really, really impressive. But I wonder, like, you have to have it again this year. You just do. It was amazing, and I'm inviting myself again. And B, I want to know, how do you find these people? Like, do they approach you? How do you find them?
Well, you know what? It's the political in me. Okay. In Washington, the most important currency you have is people.
Okay.
And people say that data is the new oil or gold of today, and information is power. But even before information, it is relationships. So one thing I learned in Washington politics, successful people, what they've done, how they've amassed influence or power, is their relationships with people. It's their. I've working in Washington politics, whether it was for the Obama administration, whether it was working for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee or on a national campaign, I've learned that there are people who, people don't realize, I don't know if this is still the case, Nancy Pelosi has a reputation that she sends a handwritten note to everyone she meets. Well, everyone that she's going to follow up with, right? A handwritten note. And
wow.
I remember I worked with this woman I think it was in the Obama administration. I didn't particularly care for her, but she was that personal touch. She would actually just come around and just say, "How was your weekend?" and sit there. So for me, in politics, I learned that human capital is the best thing that you could do. And having a network is the most powerful thing that you can have. And that's how I actually, move up in politics. It was when I interned, people said, "Oh my God, Cleve is so great. Oh my God, no, Cleve has a place at the table. Oh my God, no, you're not going to push Cleve out." And so when I have the interns I've had along the way, I still keep in touch with them. We connect on social media, but so I approach that in crypto because of the very thing you talked about, right? Most of us, when we started in this space, we were the only Black face in a room at a meetup or at an event, and one of very few women. And that's a problem. We've learned that even, for in corporations that are trying to retain women, one of the biggest barriers is or people of color. Nobody wants to be the only one in a boardroom. That is very, very isolating. So for me, I definitely, go out of my way to identify other women, other innovators of color who are doing things. I email them, I reach out when I'm doing events, I ask them to engage, I follow up. So the relationship matters. And here's a cute antidote I have. So years ago, I was in Louisiana for a campaign. Actually, yes, it was in 2003. It was for the Kathleen Blanco campaign. And when you're dispatched to a campaign, you go to a state and they find you someplace to stay. I was staying with this girl. This girl was just very, very. She was one of those people who went out a lot, party a lot, right? So gotcha. And I was one of those people who actually just wanted to, work and work. She's like, "No, you're going." Every time we went to a club, though, guys gravitated towards her, right? And she dressed the part as well. So she would always want to go out with her girls. So there would be like 3, 5, sometimes 8 girls deep. So a guy would come over and ask her, "Does she want a drink?" She would look at us and say, "I don't drink alone." They always brought us drinks.
Nice.
Exactly.
Right.
So to this day, now when there's an opportunity that comes for me in blockchain, whether it's a speaking opportunity, I look at who else I can bring forward, because just like her, I'm not gonna have a seat at the table alone.
Which is
If you
which
want
is
me to have
great.
a
I love that. But okay, so here's my other question for you, because I find this and I didn't realize, I didn't think it through until a friend of mine who I'm actually going to be interviewing tomorrow, until he brought this up. So I am like you, Cleve, where I meet somebody and I think, okay, this person needs help, and I go out of my way to help them. I follow up with them. I make sure everything's going okay. Is there anything I can do for you? Because I really think that it takes a village, right? It's not going to just be one person. It takes a village, and I'm a little different. I don't mind being the only Black person at the table, but it'd be preferable if I wasn't, right? So then I'm fighting a little bit less to get my ideas heard and things like that. But one thing I realize is, as I reach out to people, they're kind of sometimes met with suspicion. As in, why are you contacting me? Do you really just want to say hi and see how I'm doing? And I'm like, yeah, the pandemic, it's been difficult for a lot of people. I'm really just following up to make sure you're okay. Like I consider you, a good person. Just want to say hi and see how you're doing. Really? So, like, how do you combat that? Because I didn't realize that until my friend said, I said, I have a very good group of people, and we always have each other's backs. And he's like, do you? Do you really? I was like, yeah. And he's like, are you sure? And I went, and then he said, because you're the first person I've heard say that, because most people, they generally tend not to. And I was like, oh my God, he's got a point, and so has that been can you hear that? Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's
Okay,
part of the COVID virtual
yes,
world now.
right. It
They
totally is.
yeah.
Anyway, continue. How do you
No,
deal with that?
I think it's an excellent point. People are suspicious when you just want to build a network and you want to have more people at the table. What is in it for you? And what people who say that don't realize, there's actually nothing in it for you, because that's more work, right?
Right?
It is more work to
Yeah.
help somebody follow up with them, to actually be concerned about them. And oftentimes you're not getting revenue for it, right? Most of the time. So, but I think people are just naturally, suspicious, right? And because
Yeah.
that is not the way. I was talking to a friend recently, and I was telling her that my handicap is my desire to build community, my desire to have people at the table, to bring people forward with me,
Mm.
because not everybody wants to move forward with you, right? And not
Mm.
everybody, as you're going forward, they become your adversary. Then they fight you along the way, and it's just like, I'm
Mm.
just trying to get us there, like the enemy's over
I'm
there.
just, yeah, I'm exactly right. I'm really just trying to get us there. And people are like, really, really? And it's not until, like 6 months to a year later, they're like, oh, I really was kind of suspicious of you, but you really do just want to help. I'm like, I really do just want to help.
Well, I think
So
one thing I've realized is people like us were the exception, not the rule. People are either suspicious, so they are cautious about people, or some people just don't give a damn. Like they just
right?
don't want to
Yeah.
connect. They're out for self, and they just want to do. And sometimes I envy those people who are just out for self. It's just like, I'm gonna get mine. Do you?
I
I
can't. I
wish.
can't do it. I can't. I always think at the end of the day, I think about karma quite a lot, like what's going to happen. I think about, like, is this the legacy I want to leave behind, right? And so I
Yeah.
really always think about what it is that, like, what will the outcome be of anything that, that I do. I don't think it's overthinking. I think it's just having a healthy 360 viewpoint. Yeah. So my other question is, have you found that as you've you've gone on and you've built this amazing career, and you're doing so many things, like I love that you wrote a book. I love that you have this amazing, tell everybody what you have coming up in a couple of weeks, because that is incredible. And I know everything happens for a reason, but why COVID? Why? Because you're always supposed to be in Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill. And I'll let you tell everybody about that.
Yeah. Well, it's what we have coming up, right? Because you are on the host committee. So we're coordinating to host a national briefing of women of color in blockchain. So we're kicking off Women's History Month, March 3rd and 4th. with a conversation about small businesses, right? Micro enterprises, because we're in an environment where economic recovery is key, and we know small businesses are key. But people don't think of, blockchain enterprises and startups and entrepreneurs as small businesses. And while we're micro enterprises, we are small businesses. We are the ones who are hiring 1, 2, 3 people. We are the ones who are creating opportunities for others. So, but that is not, most people, when they think of small businesses, even people in a position to, allocate resources, think of bricks and mortar companies or mom and pops. Well, even mom and pops and bricks and mortar companies have had to innovate over the last decade. So the theme for our conference is small business is the engine of the crypto economy, because women of color are building these incredible, products and services on blockchain with minimal resources. We need resources to scale. So as regulators are looking at, at how to hold large companies accountable, they have to also think that they have to strike a balance, because as you're doing that, you can't make it difficult for micro enterprises to scale, to build, and to grow, right? There has to be a balance. And unless, elected officials, unless, VCs, unless the industry sees us, which is why we have we're putting together a large delegation. In 2019, we had a delegation of 25. This time, we're hoping for 100, but I think we'll land around 50 to 75. But, to really celebrate these micro enterprises led by women of color who are doing incredible things, who need more resources, who need more support. So I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great 2-day event. I know you'll be speaking on a panel about equity, gender equity in the crypto space. So that will be very, very, very important. So it's going to be a great event.
Thank you. I think it's going to be great. I cannot wait. You always you have the most interesting people that join, and they're always everything leaves me thinking, I still can't get over 2 weeks ago for inauguration. Oh my gosh, no, it was longer than that. Oh my gosh, no, it was a month and a half ago, right? Or a month ago. Anyway, you had an inauguration, you had that great panel with Hill Harper, and I still keep talking about it. The man's an actor, and I thought, okay, what can he tell me that I don't already know? I've been in this space for 5 years. Good Lord, the man broke it down. I was like, he was really, really good. I was very impressed. And so I always look forward to who you're going to have, because I always know you're going to leave me thinking at the end of it. And I really appreciate that. And I really think that a lot of people could benefit by just being in your sphere, just the things, the people who you connect is really, really good. So here's my question for you. What can you tell Black women, Black men, who are coming up trying to find their way, and they're looking for any nugget of information or anything that could be helpful towards them? What would you tell them?
Yeah, so if they're looking to grow in the crypto space, which is my sweet spot, our sweet spot, I do think what I would tell them is to, unlike tech, the crypto space, blockchain cryptocurrency, doesn't require for you to leave wherever you are. And I think that's really empowering for Black people who are looking at crypto, who think, oh, I don't have money for, cryptocurrency. But most Black people, we have a hustle. We have a side hustle, or we're hustling at the job we have. And we know that the space is so in its infancy. So wherever you are, whatever domain you're in, think about what are the problems you've had at your current company, at your current business, at your e-commerce business, and what are the solutions you need? Let's see if blockchain can apply them. So if you're at a corporation, whether it's a healthcare company or a financial company, or even, a company that just sells staples, you don't have to leave. You could think about, how can we integrate blockchain in this space? How do we start a newsletter for your colleagues to share information about blockchain? Also create a working group. That's actually how you can get the attention of senior leadership, who, get folks to just start having the conversation. It's so catalytic. So many, when you look at, companies like JP Morgan or Fidelity or others, even in Facebook, at Facebook, it was, a young woman who said, "Oh, we need to focus on crypto," and her name is Morgan Breller, and she actually,
Really?
is the one who started a newsletter, started talking to people. So when Facebook actually launched Libra, she's noted as a co-founder.
Oh,
So for
wow.
people who are out there, start the conversation, because most people are not. But also, if you're not at the company and you again, whatever your side hustle is, your e-commerce business, create a merchant account to accept cryptocurrency. BitPay allows anyone to create a merchant account, so you can now start accepting cryptocurrency, owning cryptocurrency, easily convertible to cash, but now you have access to a whole new consumer base.
Amazing.
And then
Yes.
they can actually start buying cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I tell at least the people I talk to, I say, cryptocurrency is like layaway. You don't have to have a whole Bitcoin. You can just put it on layaway, like we did back in the day, $5 a week, $100 a month. I said, there's no number too small. And some people may say that's like ridiculous. No, it actually opens up a conversation because people understand layaway, right? So if I tell them you don't have to own a whole Bitcoin, you can put on layaway, they're gonna be like, well, how do I do that? Then it allows me to talk to them about Satoshis, right? That you can stash, right? Then you start to talking to them about, you can start on Cash App or PayPal right away. Like you don't have to go anywhere, right? And then start telling them that, as you build, here's some other platforms where you can actually go deeper. So connecting people to where they're at and bringing them in. You talk about the Juneteenth event. I remember one of our speakers, he made an important point. He said that, when he goes to these conferences and these conversations about blockchain, the language that they use is intended to be exclusive, right? Because there's some people who we sit there and having these conferences about, we go into deep dive about technical aspects of it, conversations that are not going to attract the average person, because no one in crypto learned about crypto right away. We had to go to a whole bunch of meetups, read a whole lot of books, get confused a lot, call a lot of people, watch a lot of videos to finally say we got it. Then we're just like, wait, it doesn't make any sense. Let me look at it again. But then we expect people to just get it. And then we talk down to them. And then we ask them, we tell them about Satoshi and cold storage. You don't understand the difference between a stable coin and a traditional cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. You don't understand the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yeah, no, they don't. You never did either. Those are all barriers to entry. So as you can see, the events that I do, I include real people. We have real conversations. They're not intended to be technical conversations. They're intended to actually talk about what's happening in the ecosystem with real people, how real people got in there, how they're using it, and the rest of it will come into play.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because you're right. That's a problem that we have in the industry. Everyone I tell them that, the problem with the people in crypto is that we're all too smart. Everyone's too smart, and all they want to do is talk about all these different things. But all the average person cares about is, how can Bitcoin make my life easier? How can blockchain make my life easier, right? You don't need to get into the nitty gritty. I always tell them, when you get into a car, you don't know how the engine works. You don't know how the axle works. You just know that it gets you from point A to point B. And that's what some people want. If you want to know what's under the hood, that's fine. But the majority of people don't need to know that, or don't want to know. So we have to keep that in mind. And they're always like, oh, okay, that's great. And then they kind of go back to doing it for the first couple times. I'm like, guys, no. You want to break it down. And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay. So it does take a little bit of time. But you're right. It's a barrier to entry, and we're not doing ourselves any favors.
Yeah. I do think for people of color, as a Black woman, for Black people, we have to get them to understand cold storage. We have to make sure they understand the difference between the different public blockchains, right? And how what IBM is doing, with their blockchain is a little different, right? Because we can't afford to have our people lose their money or become disillusioned, right? But we have to open the gates and make sure that they can get in, and then make sure we are in the right places to help them move forward. And I think that's the question of the crypto industry as well, because if we're not willing to, create access points, help people along, then they should just stay with PayPal and and Cash App. Why do they need to come down this rabbit hole? And we have to realize that it's wonderful that these institutional players, traditional finance are coming in, but if people if the crypto ecosystem wants to actually be the source of mainstream adoption, we have to demystify the language of cryptocurrency. We have to make it make sense, and we have to figure out how to uncomplicate it. Because right now, a lot of crypto people say, "Oh, well, they just don't get it." Oh, you know what? They talk to me in 5 years, you'll regret it. No, they won't. Actually, it is not one of those things. If you build it, they'll come, and if they come, they'll regret it. No, they'll just find another way. And so we have. So for people of color, for Black people, for Latinx communities, we may not make a lot of money doing it. But we have to make sure we create a space, platforms to engage, educate, and get people excited.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's a tagline, Cleve. Engage, create, and get people excited. That's a tagline.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm gonna find a way to use that, and I'll give you credit, but I'm gonna find a way to use that. That's great. Thank you. This has been an amazing. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever. There's so many things that, something, we have to do this over a glass of wine. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'm gonna have, we gotta do this over a glass of wine. But
my gosh, but you can have wine.
Okay, we'll do that. But this has been absolutely great. Is there anything that you want to leave anybody with some more nuggets of information? Anything else?
No, I think we covered so much in terms of, it's Black History Month, so it's great to have this conversation. It's great to, again, connect with other Black people in this space. And I guess if I did have one, Black History Month final comment would be that Black and Latinx people have been in crypto from the beginning. So whenever somebody tells you there's no Black people in crypto, there's no Latinx people, it's a lie. If they tell you there's no women, it's a lie, right?
Yeah, I know a good 300 of them. They're here. Yeah. And we're not going anywhere. That was so good. And anyway, so I can't tell you how good this was. You totally filled my soul, so thank you very much. I'm going all Oprah on you, but
I had fun.
This has been really, really good. So thank you so very much. We will connect again, and everyone's any questions, I'll have Cleve's information and my information if you want to reach out to us. But thank you, Cleve. I really appreciate this, and you have an absolutely great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.